Let's put it on mute here on my phone.
Okay.
That's how I know we're live. Okay, I think we're live here. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of Adventures of Data and Finance. We have a very special episode today where we're joined by Alaina Moore, who is the co-founder of Palmetto State Watch, which is a watchdog group here in the state of South Carolina, who tracks primarily the happenings over in Columbia, the state capital, with the state government. And Alaina, you and your team have done some amazing work here on just bringing some honesty to the state government and their doings. And so we want to welcome you. It's an honor to have you here on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Matthew. And yeah, it's been a very busy year this year, but some we have been able to stop some things and some things not. But at the end of the day, we get to expose it all, and that's what really matters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess first
So,
off, I just wanted to ask you a few questions just for the audience who may not be familiar with what your group does. Tell us a little bit about Palmetto State Watch. What do you guys focus on? What are your goals and objectives when it comes to policy and to state politics here?
so Palmetto State Watch is a watchdog organization for South Carolina. Me and my co-founder started it about 4 years ago when we were on the campaign trail and started doing research. We found all of this research and followed all these money for people that were running for statewide politics or that were in statewide politics already. And we wanted to give the research to somebody, but we did some research and found that there was no one really who would probably take it in the state of South Carolina because there's no watchdogs groups. So we decided to start it. And what Palmetto State Watch goals are, the first one obviously is to expose corruption on the local and the state level of South Carolina. The second one is to promote effective transparency because as we have learned, when you expose corruption, it leaves a black hole in a way. And usually it gets filled with even more corruption. So promoting effective transparency and effective solutions is the key to getting things done. And the third, which is probably my favorite one, is creating a network for like-minded citizens in South Carolina to come together. We train citizens and show them how to expose corruption in their area, depending on what they want to look into, and then we publish that. One thing we've learned is that 9 times out of 10, if something is happening in one county in South Carolina, it's happening in another. We've got 46 counties, which isn't as much, I guess, on the grand scheme of things, but for a native like me, it feels like a lot. So there is a lot going on in the States. One things that we actually uncovered, I believe it was in the summer of 2023, to give you an example of how this happens in one county and usually happens in another, is in the summer of 2023, there were tax hikes on the county level all across the state. Greenville County wanted to do a 23% tax increase. Fairfield County wanted to do an 8% millage increase. Richland, Beaufort, Horry, all of these different areas, they were all doing tax hikes around the same time, but no one realized what was going on because, I mean, let's be honest, most of them weren't sitting in county council. They weren't paying attention, and a lot of them were out of the county at the time on vacation. So we were able to get several of those tax hikes. Greenville, I think, ended up somewhere around 11, still a huge historic tax increase, but would not have been the same if it had not been caught at the time that it was caught and citizens had taken action when we were sending out our action alerts. So that's one thing that we do. And the other thing is we follow the money. It
Mm.
really comes down to following the money. South Carolina is a small state. We've got a set of uniparty in our state. I mean, they call us a Republican supermajority, but if you ever watch the South Carolina House or Senate floor, you see how the establishment on the right and the establishment on the left always work together
Mhm.
to get things done and get the bills passed that they want. It's usually the outsiders of both parties that get any kind of break it up a little bit and call things out. So what we do is we follow the money. We've done that with several people. We've done that with the AG's office. We've done that with very many legislators. And recently we've been tying it to legislation that's being passed. One of the problems that we saw was there was this bill being passed to remove religious exemptions for the MMR vaccine for children.
Mhm.
And what we decided to do was look at the inside baseball because I think a lot of people miss that. There's inside baseball that goes on with all of these pieces of legislation. Legislation just doesn't get filed because somebody, a constituent asked for something. A lot of times there's a lobbyist that's representing another group or a gigantic group's interest. Let's say, like Big Pharma, for instance, your insurance companies and your hospitals and your associations connected to it all. And they give donations to these legislators. And those legislators just end up happening in the same year filing legislation that would help those lobbyists. And, taking away the religious exemption would do that. So, what we do is we create calls to action. First, we educate the citizen on what's going on, and then we create calls to action and say, all right, these are the people you can contact to stop this bad legislation, or here is what you can do to stop tyrannical legislation from coming into South Carolina. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but one thing it does do is it educates the citizen, and we've been able to slow a lot of things down because of that. But
Mhm.
ex corruption is an epidemic, not only in our nation, but specifically on our local and state level in South Carolina. I mean, I don't think it's ever been this corrupt, and that's why but it's a grapple for power, and the power only stays with few